somewhere else. And we're standing there, watching them do, the news and sports and weather and everything. And he says, that's our broadcast. We'll see you tonight at 11. CBS News is next. Good night, everyone. And then, you hear the director and the camera, all right, we're clear. And he gets up and he walks away from the desk. And he's got a sport coat on and a jacket on, but he's wearing shorts as he walked away from the desk. And I just remember thinking then, because I was always been a news geek. I was always watching TV news when I was like 6 or something. I was like, it's all been a lie.
A few shows ago, someone said, "Where's Hoppy's music?"
Oh, I forgot about that.
Well,
you don't have to do that. It's okay.
Oh no, I'm doing it because it's not the same song.
Oh really? You have a new song?
Someone submitted this song.
Oh, I hadn't heard.
We got a Hoppy song?
Can you hear it without headphones?
I can.
Okay,
that's all right. Just go ahead and play it. I'm sure it's wonderful.
This is the opening to Hoppy's Obvious Observations. He's hearing it. Brad's hearing it for the first time. Let's do this.
I haven't heard it.
Yeah, that's what I said.
Oh, okay.
He's hearing it, and Brad's hearing it for the first time. How is your hearing?
I'm sorry, what?
Here we go.
He's got thoughts that sound brand new, but they're things we already knew. He's got his lip balm ready, heaven knows. Let's make it quick before his bladder blows. It's Hoppy's Obvious Observations.
Hoppy, take it away with your obvious observations.
Oh, and Ryan, we talked about this without you on the air yesterday, that you supposedly had the inside track to all the good candy for maybe to stash some of the stuff for us.
Only after trick or treat.
Right. Ryan finds where it is after.
I don't mess with the candy supply, but in that brief period where there's candy in the building between trick or treat and the Christmas parade,
right,
I try to keep tabs on where it is.
Well, so have you located this?
No.
Give him time. That's what I'm saying. Give him time.
Okay.
Right. It's like a treasure hunt every year.
I most of the time it's in the room off to the side of the front desk, but sometimes it's been in like supply closets up in the second recording studio near the MetroNews.
So sometimes like in the back of the toilet, in the reservoir. He's found them everywhere.
So when you find this candy, you'll remember your old pal Dave.
No.
And your immediate supervisor, Coop, correct?
Coop, yes. Yeah.
Huntington, you know who they play? Sevier County,
yes,
Tennessee.
That's exactly
They've already
right, yeah.
played one of the best teams in Tennessee in the opener. It's their only loss so far. This is also one of the best teams in the state of Tennessee. So I don't know what they're going for, a CFP playoff spot or what they're trying to do down there in Huntington, but they're challenging the heck out of themselves.
Does it ever feel like 24 years? Do you ever sit back and think it feels like, sometimes I can't believe it's been 24 years, and I just think it feels like it's been a lot less.
And then there's other times I think,
yes,
it's only been 24 years?
Yeah, same thing.
I would love to go back, and I don't think I have I know I don't have any way to doing it.
No, I don't want to go back and hear the first show.
I would.
I would too.
I would love to go back and hear show number 1 of year number 1. We had different producers. We weren't on video.
Right.
A lot of things have changed over 24 years. But yeah, sometimes I think I'd like to go back and say, you guys never got any better at all.
So
as he approaches the tee and blasts one, a low line drive. It's going to be Tyler on the return now. And Tyler up the middle, trying to break a tackle, gets outside, look out, another big play, Tyler down the sideline, he will score, touchdown Frankfurt, they answer right back.
I drove home one night, it was around 11:30 on a Sunday night, and I said, you know what, I've been doing this, and I'm tired of doing it. And I felt the program was slipping. I just felt, hey, you know what, it's time for a younger guy. People said, did I miss football? I was busy and I didn't miss it. No, I missed Saturday. I'd go to the game and, I'd just sit up there and kind of wish I was going to do this or that. But I didn't miss all day Sunday. I didn't miss all day Monday and all that preparation.
5, 3.
Rag 57! Rag 57! Hot, hot!
I don't believe what I just saw. Bill McKenzie kicks a 38-yard field goal on the final play of the football game.
5 seconds left in the game. Do you believe in miracles? Yes!
It is a great night to be a Mountaineer wherever you may be.
From the home of the state's land grant institution, inside the Health Plan Studios, in the Dale B. Miller Building in Morgantown, it's time for the state's most listened to sports talk show. This is the CityNet Statewide Sportsline. CityNet, cybersecurity experts for the digital age. And now, across the state of West Virginia and beyond, Sportsline is on the air.
And we welcome you into a Sunday night edition of the CityNet Statewide Sportsline, coming to you from the Dale Miller Building in downtown Morgantown. Sixth string co-host Joe Mercado, honored and privileged as it is always to be joined by the one and only Coach Greg Hunter. Greg, welcome in.
Well, thank you, and thank you for joining us on what all of a sudden this weekend has become incredibly hectic, confusing, you name it. We're not even to the start of football season in the college and high school ranks as practices start Monday and Wednesday, respectively, in those two categories. But, boy, there's a lot of activity in college athletics.
So to your initial point, Coach Hunter, a couple of interesting Friday night news drops that came about an hour or so, I think, after you guys left the
much
studio.
to our chagrin, yes.
Why couldn't it have been at 4 o'clock, and you guys would have had a great amount of items to talk about. But a couple of interesting nuggets from the NCAA and legal proceedings around the NCAA regarding the 5-for-5 eligibility rule. That all coming down late Friday night, so we'll get into that. We'll also talk about, and you guys had Senator Shelley Moore Capito on earlier in the week talking about the Protect College Sports Act, and there was a significant development that came Friday night with the SEC and the Big Ten announcing that they are good with that agreement as it stands, and now it's a matter of getting it through Congress potentially by the time they go on recess this coming Friday. So we'll get into that as well. So a lot to talk about over the course of the 2 hours tonight. Coming up at 6:20, we'll have Brad Howe on to discuss the latest developments in the court proceeding and the ruling that came from Colorado that potentially, although there's been a little bit of walking back of what was initially reported today, from the initial reports on Friday, and how it could relate to some athletes and if they have transfer portal opportunities or if they are just basically allowed to come back to the existing team that they were with previously, unless they were in the portal. We'll break it all down and make as much sense of something that doesn't make a whole heck of a lot of sense, but we'll try to break it all down as best as possible. Also, later in the show, we'll talk some more WVU men's basketball, a couple more comments from head coach Roz Hodge and Finley Bizjack. Both were available to the media on Thursday. Coach Hunter, you and Brad and Kyle had a couple of comments from Coach Hodge on Thursday, but we'll hear a little bit from Finley Bizjack, get his thoughts on joining the Mountaineers and where they stand going into the start of the fall semester as things get going for them in a couple weeks' time after a little bit of a break. We'll also check in with WVU President Michael T. Benson. He was the guest on the latest edition of the Three Guys Before the Game podcast that was posted earlier this week. We'll have a couple of comments from Benson regarding Mountaineer athletics, his first year as the university president, and a couple of other issues. Coming up at 7 o'clock, as we mentioned, summer's over effectively today. As this is New Year's Eve for a number of high school athletes around the state. Fall sport practices set to open up tomorrow, and that includes high school football training camps. So we've got, I know of at least one team that is hitting the field tonight at 12:01 or later this morning to mark the official start of preseason training camp. I know Mingo Central is, and I know there's got to be some other teams out there that are ready to take the field and are going to do so at the earliest possible minute to do so, and that's coming up at 12:01 tonight. Fall sport practices officially open, and then, of course, Wednesday, Coach Hunter, the Mountaineers take the field. So we had a summer. It was shorter, given the great success of the WVU baseball team in Omaha, but summer's over, Coach Hunter.
Yeah, you are right. It is, and I always appreciate those midnight madness type things. Liked them in the college basketball world and appreciate the high school football teams that do that as well. Do you know, is that traditional for Mango Central?
I don't think so. Not that I'm aware of.
Yeah, I think that's cool. It's very unique, and they're high school kids. They're up well past then, anyways.
Very true.
So they're getting going, but obviously, a month away for all those with practice until they take the field for real in game opportunities, as that'll arrive real quickly on both those sides of things. And interested to see, as you go make your way around the state over the course of this month, and then Greg Carey as well, what you see, what you think of the high school ranks, because I know what that means to people. And obviously I'm very anxious to see what this Mountaineer football season holds in year 2 of Rich Rodriguez v 2.0.
Yep, looking forward to hitting the road tomorrow, and we'll be on the road until Friday, visiting a number of camps around the state, Charleston area tomorrow, and then kind of making a loop around the state after that through Friday. And we'll hit some other schools later in the month of August, but that's the plan for tomorrow. So we'll say goodbye to Morgantown for about a week, and then we'll be back in as WVU opens up camp later in the week. And, of course, the first practice scheduled for the Mountaineers coming up on Wednesday, and the first media availability on Wednesday as well. So stay tuned to WVMetroNews.com. So we'll have, as I said, Greg Carey coming up at about 7 o'clock to talk a little bit of a general primer on high school football teams and where they stand going into the 2026 season. Some of the defending champions, we'll get into their prospects of repeating, and a couple other questions for Greg as well. And then, if time permits, I know you guys had Mason Williams, the 93rd West Virginia Open champion, on Friday night's edition of Sportsline. Had a chance to catch up with Mason after his championship on Friday, and we'll have some more comments from Mason Williams on winning the State Open Golf Championship coming up later in the program as time allows. We'll get quickly into, by the way, the text line open throughout the course of the program at 304-TALK-304. That's 304-825-5304. We'll give a bit of a thumbnail sketch before we get to Brad Howe and get his comments coming up in a couple of minutes. But basically, the general news coming down Friday night regarding the district court decision in Colorado from Judge Charlotte Sweeney, which allows athletes in the NCAA that are entering a 5th year, theoretically, the class of 2022 graduates, those that played 4 years at a Division I level or any college level, and now are trying to get involved in the decision that came down from the month of June, where it was announced that athletes now have a 5-for-5 eligibility clock. You can play 5 years over the course of 5 years, but you basically have a 5-year window, and in that 5, unlike previously where you had to use a red shirt, you can have 5 years of eligibility. Well, Judge Charlotte Sweeney in Denver ruled, and this was not just for athletes that came to her in this case, but for all athletes across the NCAA, that they would be eligible for a 5th year. So that brings in a lot of athletes, and this is not totally unexpected. Ross Hodge had mentioned this on Thursday, that they were kind of keeping an eye on the situation and seeing where things would stand. Well, we expect, of course, the NCAA to attempt to appeal this decision, and they announced late on Friday through their NCAA chief legal officer, and Scott Beerby, quoting from his statement that he released, the District Court of Colorado's decision is egregiously wrong. The court's decision to certify a nationwide class and grant sweeping injunctive relief with virtually no evidence and without witness testimony or even given so much as a hearing invites further chaos in college sports and irreparably harms thousands of student athletes already on campus. We saw Coach Hunter on Saturday, a couple of athletes say, based on this new ruling that came down Friday night, we're looking at opportunities to play for an additional year, and they said they were interested. WVU punter Oliver Straw, former guest on the Three Guys podcast, and friend of the program here, tweeted out 26 season, here we come. And he was one of those guys that played 4 years in a 4-year clock and would seemingly, by this decision from this Colorado judge, have another year available. That's kind of the thumbnail sketch. Now, there is a development earlier today, and reading from Sam Ehrlich, who follows litigation involving college sports, there was a clarification to the original issuing of the injunction by Judge Sweeney from Friday night. She stated, in reading from Ehrlich's tweet here, in doing so, Judge Sweeney clarified that her injunction only grants athletes a 5th year. It does not enjoin transfer rules, roster caps, rev share caps, etc. So there's a lot out there, but it seems like, based off of that, athletes could come back potentially for a 5th year, but if they weren't in the transfer portal originally, they're not able to then enter the transfer portal now for opportunities away from the school in which they previously finished up with.
Yeah, so they'd have to come back to their original school. We did see some that when they entered their name into the portal, last spring or summer, and you go, well, they're out of eligibility. Why the heck are they doing that? Well, that does seemingly open a door for them. But this whole thing, I admit, so confusing because it also sweeps across all sports, even back to football. So it's not just baseball and basketball, and obviously men's and women's sports as well. All of those. And as you said, players that just have been in colleges looking for 4 years to this point, now looking for 5. I've seen some players that are now going for 6 and 7 years. And we've seen that in past years, that those have gotten opportunities, but others are still trying to work that. And if this ruling doesn't allow, what are the odds that they don't, seek another ruling that says, well, you know what, as a 5th-year guy got in, what about me? Can I get in? I'm a 6-year guy who played junior college for 2 of those. So I mean, I need Brad to help me wrap my mind around this whole thing, because there's so many pieces that I still don't understand.
Yep. So we'll get to Brad coming up in our next segment, and obviously the most immediate and pressing concern for the WVU men's basketball team, and Ross Hodge was asked about it because it relates to the status of Javen Buchanan from Boise State. Does he now have a 5th year? Brennan Lorian is out there as a guy who possibly could, based on the letter of the law, from what it looks like. Now, granted, an NCAA appeal could wipe all this away, but Brennan Lorian could be a guy that, given that he did not turn professional, didn't play in NBA Summer League, is not currently on an NBA roster or any other professional roster, could have the opportunity to come back to WVU for a 5th year. So we'll try to flesh all this out. Get Brad Howe coming up in our next segment. And again, join us on the text line throughout the course of the program with your questions at 304-TALK-304. That's 304-825-5304. The CityNet statewide sports line continues after this.
Hey, this is Brad Howe for your local internet provider, CityNet. For years, rural communities in West Virginia waited for reliable, high-speed internet. Now, fiber is most likely at your front door. Public investment helped build the opportunity, and CityNet delivered the service to homes and businesses just like yours. With free equipment, free installation, no contract, and local support you can count on, switching to fiber has never been easier. Fast downloads, smooth streaming, better connections for work, school, and everyday life. When it's high-speed internet you need, CityNet.net connects, protects, and perfects.
We are there for you, to care for you at the health plan. We are here for you.
It's good to have options for your family or employees. Rooted in your community since 1979, the health plan is your trusted partner. Get flexible coverage, exceptional support, and competitive rates.
The health plan, we are here for you.
Live from the Health Plan Studios, the CityNet statewide sports line returns in 2 minutes on MetroNews, the voice of West Virginia.
The 2026 West Virginia Prep Football Showcase partnered with Coalfields & Company.
The premier program across all classes in the state.
Analysis from Travis Jones and Joe Bricado. See the players and program shaping the 2026 season. Watch high school football athletes compete in the 40-yard dash, 5-10-5 shuttle, and broad jump. Streaming live July 25th on Metro News Television, YouTube, and Facebook.
You know CityNet is West Virginia's leading technology company. Whether we're managing IT infrastructures, protecting the critical data and networks of our region's businesses, or providing fiber broadband, TV, and phone services, we are your go-to experts. We're also a strong partner in the communities in which we serve. CityNet, your trusted technology partner. Learn more about us, visit citynet.net.
At Daniel's Men's Store, exceptional style begins with a curated selection and finishes with a flawless fit. When it's time to buy a suit, Daniel's is here to make sure yours is one of a kind. Discover tailored suits you'll only find in store at Daniel's.
I had a severe heart attack in November of 2024. And then I entered into congestive heart failure.
We really had to go towards an LVAD. And not only is he living, he's thriving.
Need a truck that's ready for work, weekends, and everything in between? Right now at Dan Cava GMC, get up to $10,000 off select new GMC Sierra 1500, or save up to $4,000 off all new GMC Canyon Elevations, offering bold styles, advanced technology, and everyday practicality. Come explore our all-new GMC Yukons, built for busy families and big adventures. All this and more at Dan Cava GMC in Bridgeport. Shop Thorod.
Welcome back into a Sunday night edition of the CityNet Statewide Sportsline. Joe Mercado and Coach Greg Hunter taking you up until 8 o'clock this evening, trying to sort through the news drops that we had late Friday night and into today regarding the U.S. District Court Judge Charlotte Sweeney's decision to allow graduating members of the high school class of 2022, potentially a fifth year for NCAA competition, going along with the new model that was approved in June for current and future athletes to have the 5-for-5 playing option available to them. This decision from Sweeney, and again, some clarification and update on that today, allowing potentially athletes, and a number could come back to WVU, spread across various sports. To get into it a little bit more, we're joined by Brad Howe of MetroNews, our unpaid legal correspondent, to break down all these things. And Brad, we've got a lot to get to, but first of all, thanks for joining us on the show.
Hello, boys. Good to be with you. And if I'm our legal consultant here, we've got big problems at the network.
That's okay. We can kind of, between the three of us collectively, I'm sure we can drill down a little bit as to where things stand. But in the previous segment, we kind of gave a thumbnail sketch on the ruling that came down late Friday evening, shortly after you guys left the air on Sportsline, and then the update or the clarification to the ruling from Judge Sweeney that came down today. But in terms of, and we'll talk about where the WVU men's basketball team potentially stands in regards to their roster and the potential for open spaces. But your overall thoughts about the fact that it's August 2nd and we're talking about athletes that could potentially join a sport, any sport across the NCAA, that it could already be in practice as we speak.
Yeah, it's crazy, and I guess that just stays right in line with what college sports has become. So we should come to expect this. I think for football players, it's the one that would be the biggest source of frustration. If I was one of those players that theoretically became eligible today for college football, yet you find that out 3 days before practice begins in West Virginia's case, that's where I think the frustration would come. It's going to be hard enough from a basketball perspective, and then certainly if you're baseball as well, because this opens it up across all sports. I do think it was wild, the swing in decisions just between Friday and then today, the clarification. Just Friday getting it passed from having to do these individual lawsuits to a sweeping class action suit that put all of these players, these athletes, seemingly available. And then today, that clarification, which you would think would be part of what the appeal was going to be based on, was really interesting, because that shot down a lot of hopes and dreams there, guys. I think there were a lot of athletes that assumed the portal would open back up and it would create some opportunities for them, and that's not the case. So it's a different scenario when dealing with West Virginia versus nationally, but nationally I think the ability that they didn't open the portal, number one, and the judge did not allow roster limits to be expanded as a second part of that. I think that was one of the pieces people were waiting to see from Friday's ruling, is that could you go ahead and go above your normal roster limits, and that's not the case. So that severely limits some of the ability of these players to go back to where they were and to be able to get the dollars they want.
So, Brad, let's drill it down to West Virginia in particular, and let's start with men's basketball, because there are two players that have only played 4 years of 4 years of college basketball and have done so in a 4-year window, and that's Trayson Eaglestaff and Brennan Lorient. So, both seemingly now are free to return. I know Trayson was playing NBA Summer League, but being a pro doesn't mean anything in the NCAA anymore. So, who knows what the heck's going on?
Yeah, I agree with you. Those are the two. So I think there's a question on both. And man, wouldn't it be great to have both of those guys back on the roster? I mean, Belo's potential in this system is clear. That's you're talking about not only a potential first team All Big 12 guy next year, but a guy that I think would certainly elevate his stock up into the realm of being drafted next year. A guy that would be in his third season in this Ross Hodge system. It would be great to add some depth to that front line and bring Brennan Lorient back. So I think that's an obvious target. Trey's an interesting one, though, guys. I've said on air since last year, if there was a guy I could bring back for a second year in Ross's system, Trey would be right near the very top of my list. There weren't many guys last year. In fact, there were only 65 of them that averaged double figures in the Big 12 conference in points scored per game. He was one of them. And I know there were a lot of people that thought he would score more per game, but given what his development was in only 1 year and becoming a rounded-out basketball player, then he would add a lot to this roster as well. I think the bigger concern when you look at those two is you only have the one roster spot available. Excuse me. So West Virginia would have to release somebody else in order to make room for both of these guys, number one. Number two, you have a financial situation here as West Virginia did a great job of gathering money for this men's basketball program and going out and assembling this roster. And now all of a sudden you're potentially adding one or maybe two guys back into this, and guys that would command a pretty good price. So you've got two issues here, but the fact that one roster spot remained available, I think gives you a good indication that Ross Hodge had an idea that this may be coming down, or at least wanted to be prepared in the event that it did. And again, that clarification today with no transfer portal open certainly would not hurt West Virginia in the fact that the two guys that you would like to add to your roster, if you could add to, would be Trey and or Belo.
Brad Howe joining us on the CityNet statewide sports line. And Brad, you kind of dipped into the next question I was going to ask you, but Ross Hodge was asked about this on Thursday and said that, and you guys played the cut from him on Thursday's Sportsline, but if you're looking to add somebody at a late date, a 15th player to the roster, he would be more comfortable with a guy that had already been in the program, somebody that they knew, and wouldn't necessarily be interested in a transfer portal player. And obviously with today's clarification from Judge Sweeney, it appears that transfer portal players would not be an option to join a team as a 15th member of the WVU roster. Point being, if you're Ross Hodge and you've assessed this and kind of had this in your back pocket as something that could potentially happen and that a returner could come back to the program, are all programs, do you think, across the country bracing for a situation like this where they've kind of had this in the back of their mind that this is something that could ultimately happen, and maybe they've kept a spot open because of situations like this?
Yeah, that's a great question, Joe. I don't know if most have done that. I would be surprised if some of the bigger Power 4 schools did not plan on this. Because remember, guys, if you think about it, your rotation is only 8 guys, maybe 9, maybe 10 in the early season. But when you get into conference play, you're down to 8 players. So there were a lot of schools that have started managing their cap in such a way that it really slots most of the dollars towards your top 8 or 9 rotation guys. So it wouldn't have been a big stretch for a lot of these programs to do what West Virginia did, and that's to leave that last roster spot available just in the event that this comes through. I think the bigger question is how many of those guys that this ruling covers actually are able to return to the school that they are leaving. How many of them are at schools where coaches have changed hands and somebody else has brought in its all new guys, or this player doesn't fit the system anymore? I think that's what makes this West Virginia decision so unique, or ability to maybe add a guy to this, is because it is 2 guys. Either one, if you landed on either one of those, both would add significantly to this roster.
Well, of course, that's to say that there won't be another lawsuit that says, hey, okay, this is nice, but you really eliminated the opportunity for me to have freedom of movement. because you didn't open the transfer portal, so I'm going to file another lawsuit. So that's the next step, I guess. But Brad, now onto the football side of things, and you mentioned it. I mean, we're 3 days away from the start of practice, not just at West Virginia. Everybody sort of starts at a little different time frame in colleges, but almost everybody's going to be starting in the next few days. How do you make these changes in football and open this avenue up in realistic terms?
Yeah, I think that's the big question. So from a West Virginia perspective, you could do what, Greg? And we could spend all night going through possibilities. But a Fred Perry and an Eddie Kelly are those two guys that come to mind. Listen, you did this last year, I guess. If you want to take the positive aspect, if Rich has a roster spot or two available, if you wanted to really make the case for doing this, and you feel you have some dollars to go get. You saw last year with Jamari Robinson. He didn't play in that first game, and you waited a week to get him into camp. So I guess if it's guys you think can help you, maybe it is something to explore. But I think in the college football terms, it makes it really difficult. One quick thing, guys. Let's go back to basketball for just a second, because if I'm reading and understanding this correctly, it not only brings Belo and a Trey potentially into the conversation, but to me, that makes Javen Buchanan eligible right now as well.
Yeah.
He falls under this range, right? He was a 4-year guy, even though 2 of them were non-NCAA. He falls into this class of 2022. So if I'm reading this correctly, if this goes through, that would also serve the purpose of Javen getting his eligibility granted to him.
And one of the biggest news items coming out of Thursday's availability with Ross Hodge was the fact that the initial waiver request was denied, so WVU was looking at potentially other actions, and this, as you said, Brad, can maybe mitigate against that and make him officially, even though he's already been practicing, the 14th on the 15-man roster.
Yeah, you would assume, I think that's pretty safe to assume he's locked in as the 14th, because I think, guys, and again, you shouldn't make assumptions or leaps given how all of this stuff changes on a minute-by-minute basis, but he would certainly have a great case. As Ross alluded to the other day, having 2 non-NCAA years of his play, there have been countless other examples where those guys get through in court. So even if he has to go back and file his own suit, if this one in Colorado gets overturned, you would think you feel pretty good about him, and I think that would be the 14th spot. Hence the reason we're talking about West Virginia realistically having 1 spot open to add somebody.
Brad, at what point just seeking your opinion on this, this puts athletes in a very difficult position, because had this initial ruling that came down and was agreed to with 5 for 5 for current, again, class of 2023 and beyond, and future athletes to have the 5 for 5 availability, you have 5 years to play, 5 years, and then your window expires after that 5 years, regardless of what happens. This gives hope to a lot of athletes that they can have one more year to play. And again, that hope would not have existed if not for this rule that passed in late June granting the 5th year. But at what point, and the NCAA has already said that they're going to appeal and they're going to pursue their own action on this, at what point are you giving a whole lot of hope to a lot of athletes that think that they may have a chance for a 5th year, and that at the last second, that 5th year could be pulled back from them? I guess it's hard to say that you have the hope for something that wasn't going to be there when they left and finished school, but the hope is out there nonetheless.
Yeah, I agree with you, and I just think it raises the question again. I just don't. I guess I don't understand, if you're the NCAA, why you wouldn't have just put this group already in. Right? When you made the 5 for 5, you already knew this was going to be a lawsuit. So I guess they vetted it and figured they would win the challenge. But then you see that they lose this right away, and it would have been seemingly easier to just grandfather this in. That would have eliminated that set of lawsuits. So I am kind of surprised, given the timing, that you didn't just go ahead when you announced 5 for 5, grandfather this 2020 group in, because I'm not sure there was really anybody else that you talked to that didn't think this wasn't only going to be challenged, but that those players, those athletes had a great case upon that challenge. And again, the judge in Colorado certainly agrees with that.
All right. Now for the next hour and a half, what about the Protect College Sports Act? Where do we stand with that? Try to give us a Reader's Digest version of what has transpired since we left the air Friday night.
Yeah, how about, guys, do you ever think listeners have been more excited for football practice to begin than right now?
Or talk show hosts.
Welcome to the legal hour here on the CityNet Statewide Sportsline. This was wild too, guys. This has had more roller coaster up and turns than your favorite amusement park. It's wild that this looked dead on arrival multiple times. Certainly did Friday, Greg. When we went off the air on Friday night, it did not look like it was going. Then lo and behold, here come the SEC and the Big Ten in there. I still need more examination of this, but a couple things jump out to me. I think most people in the industry are in agreement that adding a harder cap, and I don't know how hard that cap is, but certainly more concrete than what it is now. I think most are in agreement that that's a good thing. Now, the numbers are jarring. It went up a lot. It went up from that $20 million basically to the $50 million mark. So schools like West Virginia really have a real challenge in front of them to come up with those extra dollars. But I think the knowing what the cap is and not worrying about this above the cap NIL is something that was welcomed, number one. I find it interesting that it was the Big Ten and the SEC, seemingly the two leagues with the most money, and one of those leagues over its history allegedly being willing to go around certain rules when it comes to those things, being the groups that were pushing for that. So that's interesting to me that those leagues wanted a harder cap put in place. So that's the first thing that jumped out to me. The other thing that I think we need to get into down the road as we move past the cap is the conference realignment piece of this. And I need some more introspective on that, on what that means. Does that mean we've limited conference restructuring here for a while with some of these limits about only having 19 teams in a league? What's that mean? Does that provide some stability to the Big 12 in particular, and therefore West Virginia to not have to worry about the ground shifting on you in conference realignment again? So I want to see that. I think that was pretty interesting. And then just the antitrust part of this. I mean, it's going to get challenged, but does that eliminate some of this free movement portal chaos that's been the case? They have in there one free transfer and then some exceptions above and beyond that if your coach leaves, et cetera. But will that hold? Does that stay in place? And is that in fact a rule? Because if it does, that brings some roster stability, and ultimately, will that prove to be a good thing for schools or not? So a lot of things to digest in this, but I think the harder cap, I'm not saying hard cap, I'm saying harder cap than what it is now, I think is probably welcomed more than anything.
Yeah, but will people still cheat? I mean,
Yeah,
outside of
Coach
NASCAR,
Yeah.
college football cheats as much as anybody. So you can put in any rule you want, but somebody's got to enforce it, and somebody's got to live by it.
Yeah, there's no question, and that's what I was saying earlier. That's why it surprised me where the impetus for this came from. Yes, there's no question that's true, Greg, but will it go back to the shadows a little bit and won't be the tens of millions that are going around the cap that exists now? I think that's what leagues were certainly going for. It's going to be harder to move $20 million on the black market than the way it was now, where schools were getting to that $50 million payroll just for football.
Would you rather talk about this or depth charts and position battles as we are now 4 weeks away from the start of the season?
Much rather talk about depth chart battles and who we think is going to perform on the field. And guys, I've said this a lot in all seriousness. That's the beauty of college sports. As maddening as this stuff is, certainly not only to people within the industry, but all of our listeners as well, to be going on and on about this every night, because it is newsy, isn't it? And it does affect the competitiveness, and it does affect where you're going to be in leagues down the road. The thing that always saves college sports is we get back to the actual games that we all love. And at the end of the day, when this thing's kicked off against Coastal Carolina, we'll be able to forget about these legal challenges and the Protect College Sports Act for a while, and we'll be able to watch the Mountaineers on the field. So that can't come soon enough, and that's always the thing. Every season when it starts up again, that's always what saves college sports from itself, in my opinion.
Okay, you're going to hate me for this question, but I'm going to ask it anyways.
This is Coach Hunter asking the question.
Back against the wall, Brennan Lorient's on the roster for the first game. Odds are what? I know you wouldn't like it. See?
I feel pretty good about that, guys. I mean, there's, again, disclaimer all over the place. There's a lot of runway to get from where we heard from the court in Colorado on Friday to Belo getting to suit up for the Mountaineers again. But I do think that's absolutely live at this point. I mean, that's a guy you'd love to have back. That's clearly a guy that would like to come back, and you don't have to be an insider to know that. Guys, he didn't sign a pro contract this summer. That's a dude that certainly would have been playing in the NBA G League or Summer League had this option not been potentially on the table. So I think it's clear there's a mutual attraction from both sides, and there should be from both of them. I think this would benefit below tremendously to get another year in college. Guys, he only played 61 minutes as a freshman. This is still a guy that's light on experience, and give him another year to grow at the rate in which he did from his sophomore to his junior year and then his junior to his senior year. You give him another year like that, I think, as I said earlier, sets a guy up to play in the league at the next level. So I think this makes a lot of sense. I think it's extremely live. You do have to go find some dollars. I mean, I think that's the hardest part of this now. Let's assume this sticks and he's eligible. Now having to go back in and get additional dollars that you weren't necessarily planning on spending, that's probably the hardest part of the equation.
Brad Howe of MetroNews Sports. Brad, we appreciate your time for calling in on a Sunday and helping us break all this down, and certainly gives you guys on the show a lot to talk about throughout the course of this week coming up. We appreciate your time.
All right, fellas. Thanks for having me.
All right, that's Brad Howe of MetroNews Sports, and mentioning specifically the joint statement that came out Friday night from both the Big Ten Conference and the Southeastern Conference. The statement, quickly reading, the Big Ten Conference and the Southeastern Conference support the Protect College Sports Act as currently drafted, following detailed and productive negotiations with Senators Cruz, Cantwell, and Schmidt and their respective staffs. The two conferences said in the joint statement, we appreciate the substantial work that has gone into this effort. And again, Congress or the Senate expected to go into recess on Friday. Of course, always a possibility that could be pushed back pending consultant, the senators choosing to do so and make their own decision. But, of course, there's a number of other issues facing the Senate at this point. But that's a possibility, certainly, that maybe this gets over the line before the recess comes on Friday. We will head down to Charleston. Mike, our women's basketball correspondent in Charleston. Do you want to talk women's hoops, Mike, or you want to talk legalese and everything that we've been talking about over the last 20 minutes?
Well, I think there's probably a combo there, because once you talk about the men, I was looking at the roster. The women, whom I was up there a couple of weeks ago for the meet and greet and meet the team, they got six seniors on the women's team. 3 are eligible for next year, unless I'm wrong, Hunter.
Yes,
that's
3 and 3. You're right. 3 of them are going to be fourth-year seniors this year, and 3 of them are going to be fifth-year seniors. So they would be out of eligibility if the current rule holds. The 3 would have 2 years left and not just 1.
Right. Exactly what I was going to say. You got the girl Huggins from BYU, and you got Nugget too at UCF. Skylar Forbes, that's the big one.
Yep.
From she's a senior. Zada Walton, senior, and Kennedy Harris, a senior, and our good player Chia Cook's a senior.
Mm-hmm.
Two of them are redshirt freshmen or seniors.
Yep.
Right. So what's your opinion on that? What do you guys think?
Well, I mean, according to the rule, unless this rule gets changed, they've got additional. 3 of them have additional years, but not just 1, but 2. But again, that doesn't mean the transfer portal won't be open. So, like with anything else, will they spend it at West Virginia or not is a big question. So, I guess the next question for me, Mike, is based on this latest ruling. Is there a player or 2 from last year's team that was a senior and is now graduated? Thinking specifically of a Sydney Shaw, who now wants to come back to college. She's played in a minor league pro team. I mean, not WNBA, but I mean that didn't mean anything. So I have no idea. I'm just throwing that out there.
Right.
Yeah.
That's why we're talking. I mean, and you can imagine from the coach's standpoint, he's trying to recruit for 27.
Yeah.
He's got to find out who's going to come back.
Yep.
And that's going to throw obviously a big kaboo in all of it. I guess what hurts too is you get a team in Big 12 you're playing. It's loaded with 2000 for this season coming up 2026, and you expect them, not knowing this rule came about, that they'd be gone.
Yeah.
Well, now something can come back, so it's almost like you're getting double whammy on some of these real good teams that have eligible players.
Yeah. Well, I had talked to Coach Kellogg last month when we met with him. And, I mean, he was prepared for the 5 for 5. So they had an idea that, like, Skylar Forbes would have potentially not just the one definite year, but potentially 2. So, I think as they're recruiting, they were aware of this. And so much of their recruiting is done transfer portal-wise anymore that it's not like all of a sudden they have to cut back from 6 high school players to 5, you'll have to wait until the season's over and then start to deal with transfer portal stuff. So, but I think they were aware.
Keep in mind, too, his daughter's involved in that deal now too.
Yep, you're right. And the other thing to know,
Kaylee would have it,
we talk about roster spots for the men's team where they have 14. Women only have 11 on the rosters.
Right.
I counted 12.
Right.
12?
Right.
I thought it was 11.
12.
But either way, they've got plenty. I mean, they have the same 15, but they have plenty of roster spots available if they want to bring somebody in at this late date.
Yeah, exactly. Well, that's why I brought it up. It's when I get a 50-50 comparison between them, because I follow the men's obviously too, but the women sometimes I just figure I'd bring it up and make a little discussion out of it. But I think there's a lot of opportunity there, and like you say, just because they can come back next year doesn't necessarily be WVU. It could be somewhere else.
No,
so
you're exactly right.
All
right. Gentlemen, appreciate it. Thanks a lot.
Mike, we appreciate it. Thanks for calling in. We are a little bit behind on a break. The texters joining us on the text line, and some have jokes, and we will get to those coming up. The text line, 304-TALK-304. That's 304-825-5304.
Sorry to interrupt. Rhode Island education better than Morgantown High. It is 12 on the women's roster, not 11.
It's just the counting skills. I think, but so technically 3 spots available currently, for 3 spots open. Now, this year and the year previous, Mark Kellogg didn't go all the way to the limit at 15 and kept at 11 this past year.
Yeah.
And so we'll
There
see.
you go.
Interesting times. The CityNet Statewide Sportsline continues after this.
We are there for you, to care for you at the health plan. We are here for you.
It's good to have options for your family or employees. Rooted in your community since 1979, the health plan is your trusted partner. Get flexible coverage, exceptional support, and competitive rates.
The health plan, we are here for you. We are there for you, to care for you at the health plan. We are here for you.
It's good to have options for your family or employees. Rooted in your community since 1979, the health plan is your trusted partner. Get flexible coverage, exceptional support, and competitive rates.
The health plan, we are here for you.
Live from the Health Plan Studios, the CityNet Statewide Sportsline returns in 2 minutes on MetroNews, the voice of West Virginia.
The best selection of WVU apparel is at Daniel's Men's Store. Exclusive designs you won't find anywhere else. Stylish, sophisticated, and unmistakably mountaineer. Shop in store or online at danielsofmorgantown.com.
You own a boat because you love spending time on the water. Choose the outboard that allows you to make the most of it. Honda Marine's legendary reliability, ease of maintenance, and powerful performance keep you going strong.
For over 20 years, Dan Cava Toyota World has been more than a dealership. We're family-owned, community-focused, and committed to taking care of our customers long after the sale. Our commitment doesn't stop when you drive off the lot. With factory-trained technicians and a service team you can trust, we're here to keep your vehicle running at its best for years to come. So when it's time to get your next vehicle, choose the dealership that's been serving the community for generations. Visit Dan Cava Toyota World in Fairmont. Shop the world.
Of course, the LVA was brought into my life because I had a severe heart attack in November of 2024. And then I entered into congestive heart failure.
Where he was in the course, we really had to go towards an LVAD.
At that point, I was committed. At that point, I wanted to get better, and I wanted to see what this machine was going to do for me.
With this therapy, he's thriving, doing well. And not only is he living, he's thriving.
We're Panhandle Cleaning and Restoration, and we're gonna save you. We've got it down to a science, an absolute state of art. We do it all, restoration, cleaning, and reconstruction. When disaster strikes, just pick up the phone. We're Panhandle Cleaning and Restoration, and we're gonna
Welcome back into a Sunday night edition of the CityNet Statewide Sportsline. Joe Bricado and Greg Hunter taking you up until 8 o'clock this evening. Greg Carey joining us in our next segment. We'll get some high school football conversation going as high school football teams and other fall sports teams. This is New Year's Eve for them as they will hit the fields and the courts coming up tomorrow for the first day of official fall practice. To the text line we go in a quicker segment here. Coach Hunter, should we take a break from the legalese and the exhaustive analysis of the NCAA and court rulings in Colorado? What former WVU running back does Cam Cook's running style remind you most of?
That's a good question. I mean, everybody's always a little bit unique, but I'd go a little bit Avon Coburn. Again, sort of similar stature. In terms of Kim is 5'9", 200. Avon wasn't a monster back, but had a little bit of power, a little bit of speed, but didn't have incredible quantities of both, but just found a hole and made his way and just got the most out of every single run. I mean, we haven't seen Cam Cook play a game for West Virginia yet, so I don't want to go too far out there, but that's probably, especially stature-wise, who he reminds me of. Again, I want to see him in person. I don't want to envision him being the pure game breaker that a Steve Slayton was or Noel Devine was. He doesn't have that kind of elusiveness, but he can make a lot out of every run. Anything that jumps out to you?
Avon Coburn was probably the one that initially drew to mind. Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
But again, and he is as accomplished of a running back as you could have as a returning player in the college game. Of course, he was the nation's leading rusher, as a stat that has been often repeated over the course of the last 7 months since he's been committed to the program. But yeah, it'll be good to see him on the field, and we will get the chance to do that coming up September 5th. The first chance we'll get to see the Mountaineers on the field. Terry in Morgantown, with these potential fifth-year additions to so many college rosters in so many different sports, where are these programs like WVU and others going to come up with the extra money and the scholarship numbers and limits pertaining to some athletes? Now, we don't know, good question, Terry, we don't know the demands that a lot of these athletes that could potentially get this bonus year. Obviously, there are demands that they would be able to get in March or April when they're in the transfer portal on the totally open market. Those demands would be significantly less, but it does still raise the question of that's still potentially money that would need to be ponied up in some fashion. And a lot of programs, even though some may have prepared for the potential possibility of this and having the class of 2022 guys and girls be available, there's still, you need to find the money somewhere.
Yeah, I mean, again, I think, you probably don't have this huge pot of money sitting here right now. Some may have a little bit of a rainy day fund in preparation for this, but I'd say that's a question. I mean, scholarship numbers, roster numbers, that's good. I mean, you have what you have, so that could be hard to find too. But again, the ability to have over the cap NIL, I mean, does mean that you can go out there and try to raise money for an additional player or two. You would probably been around it. I'm sure this was a Rhode Island tradition. The firefighters used to gather at the four-way stops with some firefighting boots.
How'd you know?
And, I remember that. I don't think they do that anymore. I haven't seen that in
more
years
often
in
the
West
hats,
Virginia.
but
Yeah.
yes,
Well, stop by, throw in a couple of bucks. Maybe you can have a bunch of those around, West Virginia. Some good old-fashioned candy bar sales. Go door to door, and I obviously facetious, but I mean, you'll have to hit up some people. I mean, in reality, and try to find some money. But you're right, you do get them a bit at a bargain because they don't have much negotiating power, if indeed they don't have the opportunity to go elsewhere.
Dexter, bringing kids back only delays their entry into the workforce to get a job and to start the rest of their lives, and deprives high school kids from the opportunity to move up. In my opinion, the cutoff should be age. Nobody over 23 should be playing in college sports. And that is part of this 5-for-5 rule that will, again, for current and future classes be in place, is an age limit. I'm not exactly sure of the exact timeline, but they're that does start the clock, and with the exception of military service or religious mission, yeah, the age does come in, right. The age does come into play.
Yeah, clock starts when you graduate high school or 19, whichever is first. But this year it is going to throw a wrench into the situation. Again, especially in today's world where major sports college athletes can make significant money, if you're not going to be able to make that at whatever your next level is, whether that's athletics or regular workforce, I don't blame them for trying to find another year. But at some point, you do have to go, okay, we just need to get the rule and set it, and here's the time frame of what it's going to be, and let's move forward. But the court system proved that yet again that they're not going to take the NCAA and just allow them to do what they want to do in terms of setting rules.
Texter, quite succinctly, Texter says, NCAA is full of dumb expletive deleted. The expletive is deleted in the text. So, but we get the point of the text. And now, look, the NCAA is fighting this. Now, granted, a lot of their enforcement opportunities have kind of been neutered with everything that's happened over the last couple of years. And if this Protect College Sports Act ultimately does get over the finish line, maybe the NCAA is something that will now have some more teeth than we've had in recent years, perhaps.
Yeah, and again, everybody has their opinion. I actually liked the 5-for-5 rule as it was originally written, but because I do think that you need to finally get some hard and fast rules within eligibility, because we see so many people with 5th and 6th, well, not just 5th, 6th, 7th years. There's still going to be more lawsuits going forward because the fact that it is going to eliminate red shirts, even medical red shirts. So now the guy or girl who tears up a knee and misses a full year or two, and they don't get the opportunity to compete, what are the odds that they're not going to go to court and try to extend their college opportunities beyond just 5 years?
Interesting times.
Yes.
Interesting times. High school football conversation coming up next as we get to our Greg Carey, and we'll talk about the opening up of high school football and fall sports training camps around the state coming up tomorrow, some as early as 12:01 tomorrow morning. The CityNet statewide Sportsline continues after this.
Hey, this is Brad Howe for your local internet provider, CityNet. Fiber is now at your front door and even in rural areas and communities across West Virginia. Thanks to broadband expansion funding, your tax dollars helped make it possible. And CityNet turned that investment into real connections for local families and businesses. Now, you can get blazing fast fiber internet with free installation, free equipment, no long-term contract, and local customer support that's always close to home. Don't settle for slow or no internet for another day. When it's high-speed internet you need, CityNet.net connects, protects, and perfects.
We are there for you, to care for you at the health plan. We are here for you.
It's good to have options for your family or employees. Rooted in your community since 1979, the health plan is your trusted partner. Get flexible coverage, exceptional support, and competitive rates.
The health plan, we are here for you. We are there for you, to care for you at the health plan. We are here for you.
It's good to have options for your family or employees. Rooted in your community since 1979, the health plan is your trusted partner. Get flexible coverage, exceptional support, and competitive rates.
The health plan, we are here for you.
Live from the Health Plan Studios, the CityNet statewide Sportsline returns in 2 minutes on MetroNews, the voice of West Virginia.
I had a severe heart attack in November of 2024. And then I entered into congestive heart failure.
We really had to go towards an LVAD. And not only is he living, he's thriving.
At Daniel's Men's Store, exceptional style begins with a curated selection and finishes with a flawless fit. When it's time to buy a suit, Daniel's is here to make sure yours is one of a kind. Discovered tailored suits you'll only find in-store at Daniel's.
You own a boat because you love spending time on the water. Choose the outboard that allows you to make the most of it. Honda Marine's legendary reliability, ease of maintenance, and powerful performance keep you going strong.
I'm Sean Kovich, Mountaineer Golf Coach. When disaster strikes your home, business, or golf game, call the restoration company the Mountaineers call. Panhandle Cleaning and Restoration.
For over 20 years, Dan Cava Toyota World has been more than a dealership. We're family-owned, community-focused, and committed to taking care of our customers long after the sale. Visit Dan Cava Toyota World in Fairmont. Shop the world!
Leading the efforts to build a stronger West Virginia, the High Technology Foundation has a proven plan to strengthen and diversify our state's economy. The I-79 Technology Park's high-capacity infrastructure continues to attract advanced federal operations that are driving economic growth. This keeps our young, educated residents in the state and brings West Virginians home. The High Technology Foundation, building a stronger West Virginia. Learn more today at WVHTF.org.
Second hour of the Sunday night edition of the CityNet Statewide Sportsline coming your way. Joe Bricado and Greg Hunter taking you up until 8 o'clock this evening. We're going to break away from the NCAA legalese, district court rulings and such, and we're going to talk about some high school football. Greg Carey joining us on the program to give a kind of an off-season primer and a preview for what we'll expect over the next 3.5 weeks as high school football teams enter training camps with the eye towards the season openers coming up the final weekend of the month of August. Greg, welcome in.
Good evening. How you guys doing?
We're doing well. As the lone Detroit Tigers fan that I believe has called the show recently, are you dealing with the Tariq Skubal trade okay? Are you satisfied with the return that they got?
You'll have to ask me again in a couple years, but yeah, I'm okay that they traded him. Unfortunately, that's kind of the reality. And he had 8 weeks left and was going to hit the market, so I am certainly okay with the decision. But in terms of the return, I think they probably could have done a little better, but without knowing the ins and outs, it's kind of tough to say at this point.
Well, you're a Tigers fan. I'm a Mets fan. We have nothing to feel good about. So enough of the Major League Baseball conversation. Let's get into some high school football. And Greg, we've got 4 defending champions coming into this year. We've got Morgantown in Class Quad A, Princeton in Class AAA, Frankfort in Class AA, the 2-time defending champion, and Wheeling Central Catholic in Class A. Of all those teams, Greg, in your opinion, which is the best positioned to defend their championship and to repeat?
Yeah, I'm going to go with Wheeling Central in Class A. And, I learned a long time ago as I kind of began following high school football in West Virginia throughout the ranks that, doubting Mike Young's teams is never generally a good idea. But it's a Wheeling Central team that obviously – by and large, had its way against in-state competition last year. And, they do lose a number of key standout players from that team. I believe 6 All-Staters altogether, but they also return a couple of key players. And obviously, when you're looking at the success of an offense in general, you generally start with the offensive line or the quarterback position. They've got good experience at both. And with Nico Cusick back to guide that offense, in addition to Trenton McCardle, who was a defensive standout for the Maroon Knights last year as a sophomore, I like the starting points that they have on the interior. I think that's going to make the Maroon Knights tough to dethrone.
So going back a number of years, at this point in time, we've often had off-field drama. If you talk about COVID years and all that brought about, then just a couple of years ago with all the classification situation and lawsuits that changed everything around then, doesn't seem to be nearly as much drama heading into this one. So is there drama anywhere? And if this is drama-free, just give me some of the normal good storylines that you're going to be following in August.
Yeah, I think that's well said. I mean, it's been a little bit of a quieter off season. I think the fact, too, that, these flex days get spread around and a lot of these football teams are working, in several weeks throughout the summer, whereas several years ago they weren't able to necessarily do that, does bode well for them. And I do think that, it's a positive that you don't have obviously as many off-the-field disruptions, whether that be, as you mentioned, the numerous schools that have changed classifications or obviously adding the fourth class several seasons ago. It does seem like it's been a little bit more of a relaxed off season, but a couple things that I would say I'm interested to kind of see. I know Joe's going to be hitting the road to do some of these, camp previews here in the coming days, but Herbert Hoover has added an influx of, some talented transfers, and they've had a good program. But, they added David Robinson, who was a standout at Capital for several seasons, and kind of interested to see how his game translates to that level. And obviously, they're in your own backyard where you guys are doing the show this evening. You have the defending 4A champion, a Morgantown team that earned its way to that title and was able to hold off Martinsburg and, returns who I would think would be maybe your Kennedy favorite, or at least on the short list of Kennedy favorites coming into the season in Maddox Twig, and a two-way standout who I know his recruiting has greatly picked up. But certainly I think the Mohegans are ready for another significant challenge, and I think it's also important to remember that while they earned everything they accomplished last season, they very easily could have been knocked out in the quarterfinal round in what was basically an instant classic in an overtime matchup against Spring Mills.
Coach Hunter's smiling because you're talking about his alma mater, so
yeah,
we're off to a good start
right.
there.
I mean, isn't that the way sports goes? I mean, Morgantown's dream season could have ended really quickly in the playoffs. Yep. So play here, bounce there, no matter who it is. Everybody can look back at that type of thing.
Right, and then, I was a game I saw in person. It's obviously as memorable of a game as I'd seen in some time, but, they needed to convert a 2-point conversion to extend the game, needed a fourth quarter drive to, get it into overtime, and obviously they were able to make the necessary plays, so you tip your cap to them, but, play here, play there, as you mentioned, they would have been bounced before even the semifinal round, and then obviously we recall them holding off Martinsburg in the final, and it was every bit as impressive as, what that feat is, and we know that's something that a lot of schools around the state have really struggled to accomplish over the last couple decades. So, with what they return and what they accomplish, as long as complacency doesn't set in, you would think that Morgantown will again be in the mix.
Somewhere Morgantown head coach Sean Beiser is mad at us for talking about last year because he wanted to turn the page a long time ago. So let's go ahead and turn the page. Greg, pick a team, if you would, that maybe didn't have the best of seasons last year but is poised, in your view, to make a big, big improvement this year in 2026.
Yeah, I'm going to go with Williamstown. That's a team I saw once last year, and they took it on the chin early in the year against Chapmanville. But that's a team that started 1-4. They ended up finishing the regular season with 4 victories over their last 5 games, and then got beaten in the first round soundly by eventual state champion Frankfort. But, it was kind of weird and different, almost as a measure of respect for Williamstown to not see them playing deep into November, because you've basically just become accustomed to at least penciling them into the second round of the postseason, if not the semifinals or state championship appearance. And I don't know that they're necessarily ready to quite get back to that step yet, but I do think there will be heightened expectations. They've got a quarterback in Breck Allen who returns, and he made a lot of progress throughout the season, and they played a very tough schedule. He saw what top-tier competition and championship-level programs looked like in terms of some of the opponents that the Yellow Jackets faced throughout the year. And obviously, when you're going to go back to what they did in 2025, it was the slow start that ultimately hampered them. They lost 4 of their first 5. They had to play with their backs against the wall the rest of the way, and they were able to accomplish enough that they got into the playoffs. And despite losing to Frankfort in that postseason opener, I think that experience will prove to be invaluable.
So you mentioned Maddox Twig. Obviously, he's still relatively young, but one of the best players in the state, with the idea that you probably are going to forget somebody unless you got this whole thing already written down. Give me 3 or 4 others that are Kennedy and MetroNews Player of the Year candidates heading into this season.
Sure, yeah. I think, starting kind of just in north central West Virginia there's definitely a pretty strong crop, and I would say that, Maddox Twig and then Bridgeport running back Gavin Williams, who is also a tremendous special teams player and, is getting some pretty high-level looks as a punter at the next level. I think he will certainly be in the mix and will be the featured offensive player for what you would expect to be another successful season for the Indians. And then a couple guys, from a little bit further away I would keep my eye on. It would be Martinsburg quarterback Brian Dick, who's a strong dual threat and had a tremendous season in 2025. And George Washington running back Jaden Black, he made a name for himself as a freshman. I think that he will again be in the mix. And I mentioned David Robinson earlier, who's transitioning from Capital to Hoover. I would expect him to have a strong season for the Huskies.
A couple more for you, Greg, and Greg Carey of WVMetroNews.com joining us on this edition of the CityNet Statewide Sportsline. You're probably like me, and you've already taken a look at the early season schedules week by week, 1, 2, and 3 matchups. What's the best early season matchup that you've been able to see so far? Is it, or is it not, the week 2 matchup, a new matchup on the schedule between 2024 state champions Martinsburg and Bridgeport?
Yeah, I think that's the clear one that sticks out in terms of, an in-state versus in-state opponent. And it's a game that you kind of heard some whispers about last year, or maybe before it became official. There was, I know, a lot of talk, Joe, around our area that this was being worked on, was going to happen. We know that both programs have struggled to find top-tier in-state competition. Thus, particularly in the case of Martinsburg and where they're located, they're often resorted to playing maybe half, if not more, than half of their regular season schedule against out-of-state opponents. But this is a game where it's kind of odd. 2 teams as successful as Bridgeport and Martinsburg are, neither one is coming off of a state championship. So, I think obviously both of them would like nothing more than to get back to that stage, and it wouldn't have been a surprise whatsoever had either accomplished it last year. But you want to talk about a game that gives you a good measuring stick for where you're at. I would say that week 2 matchup at Wayne Jamison Field is going to be one that you're probably talking about and remembering as the weeks progress, even maybe into the postseason.
Greg, do you get the amount of food given to you as you travel around the state for your tour as your cohort here in Joe Bricado? He comes back 20 pounds heavier because of all the freebies he's
That's
given.
easy for me to do. So.
Yeah, I would think, especially depending on where you're at. A lot of offerings maybe that are kind of unique to certain schools, and maybe certain athletic directors that obviously go out of their way to make sure you are adequately fed, and I think that is extremely well said. I'm sure Joe will be able to provide some reviews here after the next handful of days as he hits the road.
You ever turned anything down? I mean, you don't even have to tell us the school, but is there something you go, I don't even want to touch that?
That would be disrespectful to not engage in the hospitality.
And neither of you guys are the guys that would be disrespectful, but there are a couple times I would look at that and go, no, of course it's fall, but if it had ramps in it, I'm not going near it. So I don't know what you guys think.
Fair point. Fair point, Coach Hunter.
I'm not a big Ramps fan. I can probably recall the instances in which I've turned something down, perhaps on one hand, but I can't lie. I mean, generally that would probably be because I'd either eaten a meal on the way or brought something with me.
There you go.
Greg, lastly, true or false? This is the shortest summer ever, considering. You were in Omaha for about 10 days for the College World Series, and obviously that's great. But has this led to the shortest summer ever? And are you ready for what we're about to have over the next 4 weeks and beyond?
Yeah. I mean, I think that with obviously we're into August now, and the excitement starts to ramp up. Over this weekend and particularly into this week. But I do think that there's a lot of exciting storylines coming into this season, a lot of standout returners, and when you look at some of the accomplishments that, were entirely newfound for your programs like Frankfurt or a program like Princeton winning Class AAA, a lot of eyes are going to be on both those teams this year to see if they're able to maintain that level of play, perhaps give themselves an opportunity to repeat. And I do think that, we'll be talking a lot about some of the top 5 and 10 players in the state, as we generally are. But I think this year, maybe even more so than some of the others, you have a pretty good idea of who's going to be on that list. Obviously, health goes into it, and you got to get some luck and be fortunate there, and team success plays a big part of it as well. But I do think that there are no shortage of storylines as we get set to kick things off here in just a few hours for some programs.
Yeah. Very much so. First game, MetroNews TV is going to have.
Coach Hunter, I'm glad you asked that question.
Yeah.
Yes, the WVSSAC Kickoff Classic should be a good one. It was a rematch of the Class A semifinals between Cameron and Clay Battelle. So we will be in Blacksville on Thursday, August 27th to open up the season.
All right. Fine people of Blacksville. I'm sure they'll feed you well, too.
Absolutely. No question. Greg, we very much appreciate your time, and sleep well. We look forward to getting into the month of August, and sleep becomes a thing of the past.
I appreciate the time, guys, and you guys have a good rest of the show.
Sounds good. Greg Carey of WVMetroNews.com. And while I'm on the road this opening week of the high school football training camps, stay tuned with Greg's coverage of the opening week of WVU football preseason training camp. A couple of texts, Coach Hunter, before we Take our next break on the program here. Texter says, I'm really confused right now. I think, Brad say something like a $20 million increase in the cap that will kill a lot of the competition for sure.
Actually, it's going to be more than 20. Right now, they're talking, the last number I heard was 27 million, what they're calling retention opportunities. So you have your 20, and these are, sort of rounded numbers. 21 million in rev share that each program is allowed to divvy out, and up to 27 million to add to that to retain players, because schools are going way over that number now. We just don't know what that number is. Then you're supposed to be restricted after that. We'll see if they start to cheat and do what they often have done in the past. But yeah, that's part of it. Is you're going not only 21 million for rev share, but another 27 or so for retention.
Texter, it appears that the NCAA utilizes Mo, Larry, and Curly, LLC, as legal counsel. They create more problems than they resolve. That's a Three Stooges reference for some of our younger listeners that may not be aware.
They don't know that? How could people not know that?
Got to appeal to all ages, Coach Hunter.
There you go.
It's a little bit of a dated reference, but that's okay.
Yeah.
Texter, on the women's side, as long as Olivia Miles can't come back to TCU, we're good. Of course, Miles, having a former TCU player, having an outstanding rookie season in the WNBA with Minnesota. So, no, Olivia Miles would not be one of those players.
Well, we guess
coming
not.
back.
Who knows? I mean, pro contracts and all that precludes, that doesn't mean you can't be a college athlete in today's world anymore. We've seen that. And in other instances, obviously they're not, but still, it is perplexing.
Should we head to Charleston a second time?
Please do.
Because Bob is on the line joining us from Charleston. Bob, welcome in.
Thank you. Your guy you just talked to, reviewing good teams coming up this year, he mentioned that Hoover had a good group of transfers. And for the last 5 years, Hoover's been living off of transfers. I thought the SSA C last year got a grip and changed the rules on transfers. So how is Hoover getting a good group of transfers?
Correct, Bob. The new policy that has been put in place, there were a number of players that were able to get in before that policy changed. Now, the new policy will prohibit athletes from transferring, say, go in between their junior and senior year without a residency change. And yes, that is a program that has had a number of players join the program from other schools. But you'll probably see, or you will certainly see, given the new law that is being put in, fewer players transferring later in their high school careers. There's still the opportunity for athletes to transfer early on in their high school career, namely freshman year into sophomore year. But no, that rule is in effect, but in effect going forward. So a number of previous athletes were able to get in before this rule changed.
So next year, Hoover's quarterback and their star running back will both be from Capital.
That there's a possibility, Bob. I understand what you're saying, but yeah, I mean that's, and again, the new rule that has been put into place for future years, for this year and for future years, doesn't prohibit somebody who makes a residency change. So that is still a possibility for all athletes if they happen to change their residency and live in the district of the school. That they're open to do that. It does prohibit an athlete from living where they currently live and transferring to a different school. It prevents that opportunity.
And nobody wants to mention it except to say that St. Albans has won 4 games in the last 5 years, but they never add that Nitro is making a living off St. Albans players, which has been going on for a long, long time. Most people don't know it, but J.R. House, which started Nitro, was from St. Albans.
Well, I mean, this is an issue, Bob, and yeah, this is an issue that goes back decades. It's not something – Yep, you got it, Bob. We appreciate you joining the program. And, yeah, this is not an issue that has just popped up in recent years. It's gotten more visibility as there has been some more player movement, but the intent of this new rule that will be put into place for future years – you would imagine certainly stems the tide of that at least a little bit.
A little bit. We'll see.
A little bit is.
I've become cynical in today's world.
Speaking.
High school-wise, it's still, when's that law going to go before a court and get struck down? I'm being cynical, but boy, and nothing seems to hold up anymore.
Well, we'll have to wait and see. Back to the text line. I do have a football, or the texter says, I do have a football question. Greg,
Okay.
Nice job with the prediction that WVU football would soon use the week 0 for a game. Many assume this will open up a game with Pitt. I say no. It's just an extra week off.
Yeah, I mean, you're right. I mean, it doesn't necessarily open up a game for Pitt because both West Virginia and Pitt are full next year in terms of their non-conference games. So West Virginia has 3 non-conference games next season, and that's all that they can fit in with 9 conference games. And Pitt also is currently full in terms of its conference or non-conference slate next year. So now again, we've seen people cancel games and things change, but I don't think that's going to happen. I think what you can look at that and say is there probably is some juggling going on within the Big 12 of, we'd like to have West Virginia versus whomever in that what is now the 3rd week where Ohio was. Or maybe West Virginia's got a midweek game the following week and they need some space in there. As we see the Big 12 schedule come forward, and that's usually like October. Keep an eye on that date and see who ultimately is placed in there for West Virginia.
Yeah, and it'll be interesting if week 0 is something that becomes something of the past. And you would say, because it is kind of interesting this year coming up, it's a 13-week window to play 12 regular season games. In the previous 2 years, you had a 14-week window to play 12 games just basically on the way that the calendar fell.
Yeah.
But it'll be interesting to see if week 0 becomes something of the past and the opportunity for either 2 bye weeks during the course of the season or, as you mentioned, a regular season game on a midweek with a shorter week becomes something that more teams will be available to do because of that.
Yeah, I think that week 0 will be commonplace here very, very soon.
Texter, Dr. Bill in Charleston, given the probability of a large number of additional fifth-year players added to rosters, it seems that high school recruits will suffer. There are a finite number of slots, especially in basketball. High school recruits who may have been offered won't be for the next couple of seasons. Do you agree? Thank you, Dr. Bill, for the text. And going back a couple of years to when getting into the transfer portal became a much easier endeavor and players could transfer multiple times and not have the penalty of sitting out. Yeah, I mean, there have been a number of players, specifically basketball in state, that you would have thought would have maybe at some of the lower levels of Division I, but have some great playing opportunities. And there have been some players that coming through in recent years that I've been a little bit surprised that they've been a little bit undervalued when it comes to getting Division I looks in college, just because you have a number of college programs that aren't going to spend the time and resources devoted into high school recruiting if you can easily mine the transfer portal and have a better idea as to what a player can do at the college level.
Yeah, and as Dr. Bill said, now that you have another group available, I mean, there were always fifth-year guys, but now there are going to be more of those that have that opportunity. It does cut down on, you'd think, the high school recruitment because the roster limits aren't changing. So you still have the maximum number that you used to. So that's you have to cut from somewhere. I've said before, I think the junior college recruiting has gone way down. The West Virginia utilized that some in football this year, a good bit in football. But no, he's right. There are fewer and fewer high school players being recruited. But as you said, that's been the case for several years now, 5, 6 probably at least.
Behind on a break, let's get back into the basketball conversation coming up next as we'll check in with Ross Hodge and Finley Bizjack from earlier this week. That's coming up next as the CityNet statewide Sportsline continues.
The WVU Heart and Vascular Institute is recognized among the best in the nation for heart surgery. It's earned the highest 3-star rating from the Society of Thoracic Surgeons in 5 major cardiac surgery categories. Also, WVU Medicine Thomas Hospitals, Camden Clark Medical Center, and Wheeling Hospital received top star ratings for heart surgery. Learn more about WVU Medicine's Elite Heart Program at wvumedicine.org/heart.
We are there for you, to care for you at the health plan. We are here for you.
It's good to have options for your family or employees. Rooted in your community since 1979, the health plan is your trusted partner. Get flexible coverage, exceptional support, and competitive rates.
The health plan, we are here for you.
Live from the Health Plan Studios, the CityNet statewide Sportsline returns in 2 minutes on MetroNews, the voice of West Virginia.
The 2026 West Virginia Prep Football Showcase partnered with Coalfields & Company.
The premier program across all classes in the state.
Analysis from Travis Jones and Joe Brigado. See the players and program shaping the 2026 season. Watch high school football athletes compete in the 40-yard dash, 5-10-5 shuttle, and broad jump. Streaming live July 25th on Metro News Television, YouTube, and Facebook.
You know CityNet is West Virginia's leading technology company. Whether we're managing IT infrastructures, protecting the critical data and networks of our region's businesses, or providing fiber broadband, TV, and phone services, we are your go-to experts. We're also a strong partner in the communities in which we serve. CityNet, your trusted technology partner. Learn more about us, visit citynet.net.
At Daniel's Men's Store, exceptional style begins with a curated selection and finishes with a flawless fit. When it's time to buy a suit, Daniel's is here to make sure yours is one of a kind. Discover tailored suits you'll only find in-store at Daniel's.
I had a severe heart attack in November of 2024. And then I entered into congestive heart failure.
We really had to go towards an LVAD. And not only is he living, he's thriving.
Need a truck that's ready for work, weekends, and everything in between? Right now at Dan Cava GMC, get up to $10,000 off select new GMC Sierra 1500, or save up to $4,000 off all new GMC Canyon Elevations, offering bold styles, advanced technology, and everyday practicality. Come explore our all-new GMC Yukons, built for busy families and big adventures. All this and more at Dan Cava GMC in Bridgeport. Shop Thorod.
Back into a Sunday night edition of the CityNet statewide Sportsline. Joe Bricado and Greg Hunter taking you up until 8 o'clock this evening, clarifying text that came in from the text line. As part of the Protect College Sports Act, what has been proposed is a reported $22 million in retention dollars, $5 million of that specifically dedicated to women's sports. That's in addition to the $21 million current cap. Lots of zeros in there, Coach Hunter, but It does bring a little bit of clarification to things. Let's talk some WVU men's basketball, and media members had an opportunity to check in with Ross Hodge and get their first look at Finley Bizjack, the incoming guard from Butler University. So we'll get to some of the comments from Ross Hodge first. Starting off, Coach Hodge talking about the one in-state recruit in this year's class, Wheeling Central Catholic graduate and an outstanding two-time state champion swingman, and Max Olias, and the initial impressions that Max has brought to the program.
Max has been awesome, been a great teammate. Again, he's not afraid, which I think is always a really strong attribute to have as a young player. He does heart's rooted in doing whatever he can to help us win. And, his probably biggest moment of the summer was when it's your birthday, you get to take a half-court shot. And if you make it, then the whole team gets to go eat dinner wherever they want. And he was the only person that made his birthday shot this summer. So he was definitely a team favorite and a fan favorite for that one.
So that's a good way to ingratiate yourself to your new teammates.
Absolutely. Bad media, and I was sitting front and center there, that didn't follow up to ask where they wanted to go for the birthday dinner.
A good question. I wish I had thought of that myself. Very well stated. Coach Hodge on the off-season timeline, and he starts out by saying that practice essentially for the summer ended on Thursday, and they're now entering the next phase coming up in a couple weeks.
We actually had our last on-floor workout of the summer was today. They'll finish up classes next week. We'll give them a little bit of a break those 2 weeks, and school starts back, I think, the 17th or 18th. You'll ease back into it, but really right around that 1st of September, you know, the intensity level, the tolerance for making mistakes all shortens, and like I tell the team, you got to start making new mistakes. You know, you can't just keep making the same mistakes. We need to kind of see some new mistakes out here, and because I think our first exhibition game is the 17th, and so, you know, September, I mean, it just gets here really quick, you know. So like right now, these guys have done a great job. They have a good understanding of what we're trying to do defensively, to the point where if you were to show them on film, they can verbalize what's supposed to be happening. And now then it just becomes like the ability to execute it over and over and over again through fatigue, through different actions. But the knowledge of what's supposed to be happening, they've done a good job of adapting that, and that's really what you want out of the summer. Like, do we have a baseline understanding of what's supposed to be going on? They do. Now we got to do it at a better, more physical, more consistent rate, also while adding new things to the mix as well.
To one of Coach Hodge's initial points there about making new mistakes, that's something I'm quite excellent at, while not necessarily learning from those new mistakes or ditching the old mistakes. But I see the point that he's making about, okay, if you're making the same mistake, the same old mistake, now's the time to get that worked out.
So as you said, though, and as you mentioned, you know, they went through June and most of July with practices. We'll now take a few weeks off before classes start back up at WVU, and when those classes start back up, they won't hit their full practice schedule immediately, but they'll get into a little bit of it, and then before long get into even more of it. And he said exhibition games. I don't know if is that a cut that you're going to pull?
You guys mentioned it the other night, if I'm not mistaken, but he did talk about Maryland and the return trip over there.
It changes, because it used to be you were only allowed 2 exhibition games, and most of the time one of those was a, with, you know,
air quotes,
secret practice.
Scrimmage,
you couldn't tell.
In which the box score gets leaked out 10 minutes after they're done playing.
Yeah, exactly. Well, the NCAA has done away with that, which makes sense. What the heck was first of all, you're now allowed 3 exhibition practices against another club. That club can be anybody, anywhere, and they can all be open. You can have 3 Division I schools come to your building with the full public attendance. West Virginia is going to go to Maryland for a full open, scrimmage against the Terps. I don't think he announced the date of that. And then they're going to work on 2 others. Probably are going to be home games, but that could be anything. West Virginia's played West Virginia Conference schools, or how old am I? Mountain East Conference schools in recent years.
Hosted the Mountain East Conference Coach of the Year in Chris Richardson, your former
there you
colleague
go.
This past year.
Absolutely.
What was a pretty competitive exhibition game.
Absolutely showed us that Wheeling was going to be pretty good over the season, and that played out. But anyways, that's going to be different this year for those that want to attend early games, whether they're exhibition or early season games. You're going to have a few opportunities to see this Mountaineer team, 1 at Maryland and then 2 more, likely at the Coliseum.
This is Ross Hodge's second roster leading the Mountaineers, and he talks about the biggest differences between one to the roster he has assembled for year 2.
Anybody that's kind of peeked their head into practice, I think the first thing will probably, like, without even watching any sort of basketball take place, just the size and the length and the speed is probably something that really will just jump out to the naked eye. Just a little bigger, a little stronger, a little faster, and then the experience from the Power 5 level is different.
Coach Hodge now talking about, and if you look up and down the Mountaineer roster, you will see Bella Vista Prep a number of times, 4 times specifically. Obviously, Miles Sadler, the most notable of that group, but also Amadou Seni, Mo Silla, and Aliyu Diem. So he talks about the connection with Bella Vista Prep.
I don't think there's a cap on, how many you can get. Yusuf's done a great job of, cultivating relationships that, have dated back 4, 5, 6, 7 years. And again, that's what makes, a good assistant. That's what makes probably anybody that's in a people business, is you don't necessarily always know when your investments and your relationships will be able to help you. And that's what I love about Yusuf. He's such a connector. He has a unique ability to connect with people from all walks of life. And he does a really good job of he's intentional with how he goes about with his relationships. And, he spent a lot of time through the years, and he's known Miles for a long time, and that whole crew there. And then obviously, everybody is going to want to play with a great point guard. Like I said, it's like if you're a great receiver, you're going to want to know who your quarterback is. And if you can go play for, Tom Brady or Patrick Mahomes and you're a receiver, you're like, I'll go play with him. So then, there was that connection with some of those other guys, and it was natural.
Referencing Yusuf a couple of times and speaking about his second-year assistant coach in Yusuf Ali, and obviously has ties with Canada, and ultimately that connection very valuable in bringing Miles Sadler to Morgantown.
Yeah, and as you mentioned, a bunch of others from Bella Vista Prep, and West Virginia certainly hopes that pipeline doesn't slow down at any point soon, because Bella Vista, again, very talented, and West Virginia heavily involved with some of those that are there on this coming year's team as well. So they hope to keep bringing them along.
Producer Braden, let's skip ahead a little bit here, and Ross Hodge talking about the ability to navigate a long year. And obviously practice has been going for a while now, off-season practices, and they'll get into the next phase with the start of the fall semester. But Ross Hodge talking about how to navigate a long year and all the discussions that go along with that.
That's been a commonly asked question industry-wide. How do we keep these guys fresh, not get them hurt? You've seen a lot of because, again, these guys, they get what used to happen was you'd play your season, you'd take a 2-week break, and then you'd get into your off-season, and you'd be with the same strength coach. He would know your deficiencies. As an individual, that time period we talked about that month and a half, you'd still be in somewhat of a controlled environment, a familiar controlled environment. Now, a good majority of these guys are in the portal. They're not working out with a strength coach. They're not really working out. They're working out individually, but it's not the same intensity level. And then you drop them on campus June 1st, and then as a coach, you're like, we got a lot of work to do. So naturally you're going to want to, but now they're with a new strength coach that has new techniques. So there has been a lot of talk of like, man, how do we be as efficient as we can while learning, while playing together, while building habits, while taking care of our body, and, oh, by the way, not running everybody into the ground before the season even starts.
It is an interesting timeline, and lots of players that come into the program, guys like Honor Huff, they're here for 1 year, and you have that a lot with the transfer portal now. But it's a very concentrated year that goes, as the coaches would hope, deep into the month of April, and it did this past year for West Virginia by winning the crown. But it's a very different dynamic when that year is extended, but you may only have the 1 year with that player.
Yeah, no, you're right. And one nice thing about this group that he has this coming year for Ross Hodge, unlike last year when you did have the Honor Huffs of the world or 1 year, Who knows? Maybe Brendan Lorient will be 2 and equal staff.
That's why I didn't say Lorient.
Yeah. So, but so many of those players were just 1-year guys. Some transferred, but a lot of them were just in the final year of their eligibility. In terms of this coming year, most of these players have multiple years left. Now, again, in today's transfer-heavy world, that doesn't mean they have to stay here for multiple years. But from Mo Sila to Miles Sadler to, you can go through basically this entire roster other than 1 or 2. They can be here for multiple years, which obviously is a dynamic West Virginia hasn't seen in 4 years.
We'll pass the mic to new WVU guard Finley Bizjack coming up in our next segment on the CityNet Statewide Sportsline.
We are there for you, to care for you at the health plan. We are here for you.
It's good to have options for your family or employees. Rooted in your community since 1979, the health plan is your trusted partner. Get flexible coverage, exceptional support, and competitive rates.
The health plan, we are here for you. We are there for you, to care for you at the health plan. We are here for you.
It's good to have options for your family or employees. Rooted in your community since 1979, the health plan is your trusted partner. Get flexible coverage, exceptional support, and competitive rates.
The health plan, we are here for you.
Live from the Health Plan Studios, the CityNet Statewide Sportsline returns in 2 minutes on MetroNews, the voice of West Virginia.
The best selection of WVU apparel is at Daniel's Men's Store. Exclusive designs you won't find anywhere else. Stylish, sophisticated, and unmistakably mountaineer. Shop in store or online at danielsofmorgantown.com.
You own a boat because you love spending time on the water. Choose the outboard that allows you to make the most of it. Honda Marine's legendary reliability, ease of maintenance, and powerful performance keep you going strong.
For over 20 years, Dan Cava Toyota World has been more than a dealership. We're family-owned, community-focused, and committed to taking care of our customers long after the sale. Our commitment doesn't stop when you drive off the lot. With factory-trained technicians and a service team you can trust, we're here to keep your vehicle running at its best for years to come. So when it's time to get your next vehicle, choose the dealership that's been serving the community for generations. Visit Dan Cava Toyota World in Fairmont. Shop the road.
Of course, the LVA was brought into my life because I had a severe heart attack in November of 2024. And then I entered into congestive heart failure.
Where he was in the course, we really had to go towards an LVAD.
At that point, I was committed. At that point, I wanted to get better, and I wanted to see what this machine was going to do for me.
With this therapy, he's thriving, doing well. And not only is he living, he's thriving.
We're Panhandle Cleaning and Restoration, and we're gonna save you. We've got it down to a science, an absolute state of art. We do it all, restoration, cleaning, and reconstruction. When disaster strikes, just pick up the phone. We're Panhandle Cleaning and Restoration, and we're gonna save you.
CityNet Statewide Sportsline joining you on this Sunday from the Dale Miller Building in downtown Morgantown. We'll keep the basketball conversation going. On Thursday, we had a chance to speak with Finley Bizjack, one of the first players from the transfer portal to commit to WVU back this past offseason, and Bizjack talked about why WVU was the best fit for him.
Talking to Coach Hodge, he's spent time in North Texas, which is 15 minutes from where I'm from. So getting to know the coaching staff, and then Phil Forte, who I also have a close connection with for a lot of my life because he was also very close to where I'm from. And I loved how passionate they were about being here and what they represented, and that got me excited.
Bizjack, a transfer from Butler University, talking about what it's like adjusting to a new roster.
With how college basketball is now, I'm a senior, so I've seen it for 3 years now. I've had usually half the team leaves and then the other half graduates, and so I'm kind of used to it by now. But this is, like I've said before, this is the most talented team I've played on, and so trying to manage all the talent and figure out where guys fit into roles and stuff has been different. But I feel like it's been very good and very positive for us.
Bizjack on his assessment of the overall competition in practice that he's seen through off-season workouts.
It'd be a bad thing if we weren't being super competitive in practices and looking over our shoulder to see who's over there and who's over there. But I feel like the coaches have done a very good job to build that kind of culture and community vibe amongst each other. We're doing cooking classes and yoga and Pilates, and just little stuff like that kind of help us to keep away from that stuff and looking over your shoulder and just trusting what we're doing and trusting getting to achieving the end goal that we want to achieve at the end of the season.
While Butler University is a Big East school and obviously a significant program within that conference, Bizjack acknowledges that the spotlight has intensified at WVU in terms of an overall interest in the program.
I feel like it's a huge step up. The Big East is a primarily basketball conference, and it's very much mostly private schools and smaller schools, but very centered around basketball. They love basketball. But to the Big 12, I just feel like it's state schools and bigger schools, and so coming with there's football team here and mostly stuff like that. It's not really the competition aspect of it. I mean, I'm obviously coming from the Big East where it is a competitive league and you do play against top teams in the country, but more of for me the adjustment is coming to a big state school where everything is honed in on the state school, West Virginia. Everyone cares in this entire state about West Virginia. And whenever I was in Indianapolis, everyone cared about Notre Dame, IU, Purdue. It was it was everything but Butler and so that's been an adjustment for sure.
Not too dissimilar, Coach Hunter, from what we see with a lot of athletes that come to WVU and recognizing the spotlight that comes with it.
Yeah, very much so. And we've had a few chances to talk to and listen to Finley so far between his appearances on
friend of the program
Sportsline.
Yes.
Yeah, had
multiple
him on there a couple
Sportsline
times.
Appearances.
Exactly, and also now the press availability with him earlier this week, but boy, he's an interview favorite. But you're looking at his past performances at Butler, he's got a chance to be a really significant player for West Virginia. He sort of gets lost when you talk about the Mo Sielas of the world and the Miles Sadlers, but he's going to be an important part and could be a really good part for this club.
We got time for one more from Finley Bizjack, and as you mentioned, Miles Sadler, Bizjack talking about what it's like to share the backcourt with Sadler.
I've never played with a five-star before, or in college at least. We didn't get those at Butler, but no, Miles is super talented and he's an everyday person. He shows up every day with a great attitude and a great mindset. I've never seen him down one day or upset or sad about something else going on. He's always here, he's always present. And he always shows up and competes and plays super hard. And I've said before, there's a reason why he's gained all these accolades and done super well in high school, because he's just an everyday person. He really wants to be really good, and I feel like he's doing a really good job of showing why he will be.
Finley Bizjack on sharing the backcourt with Miles Sadler, and you can check out more coverage at WVMetroNews.com from Greg Carey's articles from over the weekend stemming from that interview session. One more break to take here on the CityNet statewide Sportsline, and we'll get into this week's Three Guys Before the Game appearance from WVU President Michael T. Benson. That's coming up next as the CityNet statewide Sportsline continues after this.
Hey, this is Brad Howe for your local internet provider, CityNet. High-speed fiber internet is probably at your front door, and now's the time to connect. Your tax dollars helped expand broadband access across West Virginia, and CityNet makes it real. More rural communities in West Virginia can finally get the high-speed internet they deserve. With free equipment, free installation, no contract, and local support you can trust. So whether you're streaming, working, gaming, or running your business, CityNet delivers the speed and reliability you need. When it's high-speed internet you need, CityNet.net connects, protects, and perfects.
We are there for you, to care for you at the health plan. We are here for you.
It's good to have options for your family or employees. Rooted in your community since 1979, the health plan is your trusted partner. Get flexible coverage, exceptional support, and competitive rates.
The health plan, we are here for you. We are there for you, to care for you at the health plan. are here for you.
It's good to have options for your family or employees. Rooted in your community since 1979, the health plan is your trusted partner. Get flexible coverage, exceptional support, and competitive rates.
The health plan, we are here for you.
Live from the Health Plan Studios, the CityNet statewide Sportsline returns in 2 minutes on MetroNews, the voice of West Virginia.
I had a severe heart attack in November of 2024. And then I entered into congestive heart failure.
We really had to go towards an LVAD. And not only is he living, he's thriving.
At Daniel's Men's Store, exceptional style begins with a curated selection and finishes with a flawless fit. When it's time to buy a suit, Daniel's is here to make sure yours is one of a kind. Discovered tailored suits you'll only find in-store at Daniel's.
You own a boat because you love spending time on the water. Choose the outboard that allows you to make the most of it. Honda Marine's legendary reliability, ease of maintenance, and powerful performance keep you going strong.
I'm Sean Kovich, Mountaineer Golf Coach. When disaster strikes your home, business, or golf game, call the restoration company the Mountaineers call. Panhandle Cleaning and Restoration.
For over 20 years, Dan Cava Toyota World has been more than a dealership. We're family-owned, community-focused, and committed to taking care of our customers long after the sale. Visit Dan Cava Toyota World in Fairmont. Shop the world.
Leading the efforts to build a stronger West Virginia, the High Technology Foundation has a proven plan to strengthen and diversify our state's economy. The I-79 Technology Park's high-capacity infrastructure continues to attract advanced federal operations that are driving economic growth. This keeps our young, educated residents in the state and brings West Virginians home. The High Technology Foundation, building a stronger West Virginia. Learn more today at wvhtf.org.
Final segment on this edition of the CityNet statewide Sportsline. Earlier this week, WVU President Michael T. Benson joined the Three Guys Before the Game podcast to talk about a number of issues, his first year as university president, and also a number of sports-related items. First up, as we hear from President Benson, as the kids would say, Coach Hunter, Country Roads has had a moment this summer. Do the kids still say that? Have a moment? Something okay. Is having a moment? Okay, we'll go with that.
I'll accept your
That's
premise.
at least what I've been told. Anyway, Country Roads having a moment throughout the course of the summer with a number of high-profile appearances from the WVU baseball team and the post-game celebration that's been picked up on a number of ESPN broadcasts, plus the U.S. national soccer team picking up that as their anthem in the World Cup as well.
I just think it's so cool that we have an anthem like that is ours, that now people appreciate. CBS this morning, you saw the story that they did. Connor Knighton, I believe is his name, a graduate of GW High School. And people just love it. And I just think it's this unifying moment for our university and our state, and as you said, Brad, with the soccer team for our country. Yeah. But it's ours.
Let's skip ahead a little bit, Producer Braden, and President Benson talking about what it was like to compete and hang around for a long time at the College World Series in Omaha earlier this summer.
We're in that Final Four, and remember the flags out front? You lose, and very ceremoniously your flag gets lowered.
Lowering the
kind
staff,
of somber. But I went out there that morning. The 4 flags left: Texas, Oklahoma, North Carolina, West Virginia.
Yeah,
we were there.
We were there, bud.
And we're going back. And I'm no savant. But remember the baseball first pitch dinner or whatever it was called?
Yeah, leadoff dinner. Hoppy attended that, but he'll let you know.
He got after me for eating the corn, the popcorn, remember?
Yeah, that's true.
I'll
tell you, we sat together. We sat together. That was an attack I don't think was necessary. But go ahead.
How do you remember all these things like that?
But I remember they had a little panel there.
You went to the dinner, correct? Yeah, you were there.
After after that's a little foggy. But
okay, go ahead.
Hopper, you need to hang around him more.
That's what I do. I see him all the time. I mean, it's everywhere. Everywhere we go, he's there.
You need your Social Security number, he'll give it to you.
All right, continue on. We sidetracked you there. Sorry, our apologies.
At the dinner, they had a little panel discussion, and I said, the coach that's going to get there, yes, Oliver Luck, Ken Kendrick, Randy Mazey built the program. But Steve Staples is the guy that's going to get us there. Now, I had no idea it was going to be within 10 months.
Yeah.
But what a run for our university. Unbelievable. I know you all had a blast today. I had so much fun.
Lastly, from President Benson, Hoppy Kercheval jumping in with the hard-hitting question, as has often happened. How do you keep Ren Baker?
We have done many things to tell Ren how valued he is and how much we appreciate all he does. Number one, he's become a really good friend. I just like hanging out with Ren. He's a lot of fun.
Mm-hmm.
I love his southern drawl. I love his kind of idiosyncrasies. And he's a really good AD, and people in the country respect him. He's hired some terrific coaches. Look at the fundraising he's done. Golden Blue, Don's doing a terrific job.
Don Robinson.
All of his staff. His staff is really good, too. I mean, he's hired some really terrific people. And the stadium project, when we kick that off after our last home game, that's going to be another game changer.
And you can check out the 3 Guys Before the Game podcast with WVU President Michael Benson at WVMetroNews.com and on all major podcast platforms. And you can, Coach Hunter, hear more of Hoppy Kercheval's insightful questions. The question took about 3 seconds. You just jumped right in. How do you keep Ren Baker?
Yeah, well, some of the best questions, most of the best questions are short. I mean, you don't need to hear your spouse speak. You want the answer.
Coach Hunter, as we get into Wednesday's opening of WVU football official preseason training camp, let me ask you the unfair question, but you have the opportunity to ask the first question, sitting stage right in the team meeting room. And your first question at about 12:01. It is noon Wednesday, right?
Yeah, it is noon Wednesday. I usually don't think these things through ahead. I don't put down a list, but I usually threw out softballs to begin with. I mean, just basic questions. I don't get too hard hitting early, maybe never. But I just want to know. I mean, does he think this is a more talented roster than he had last year? And where are they better? And if there are areas that aren't better, how detrimental could that be?
So we have training camp opening up on Wednesday, and for high school football teams, training camps opening up tomorrow, and also fall sports teams as well. So, Coach Hunter, I hope you very much enjoyed your summer, short though it may be, as the summer's over.
Yeah.
We're going to walk out of the studio. It will have already been dark outside for 2 hours.
I look forward to summer all the time, but nothing's like football season for me.
Yep. So look forward to getting everything going, and I look forward to hitting the road to start the high school football training camp tour. Headed down to the Charleston area tomorrow. Visit a number of teams on the I-64 corridor, and it's all beginning, a new season getting started, and we thank you all for following along throughout the course of the program tonight. Thanks to Greg Carey and Brad Howe for calling in. Thanks to our texters, and thanks to our producers, Sam and Braden, this evening. And as always, a very quick and enjoyable 2 hours when I step into this chair on Sundays.
Thanks for doing it. Appreciate
Absolutely.
it. You enjoy your trip around the state.
Will do, and coverage coming up later this week at WVMetroNews.com, so stay tuned for that, and WVU football training camp coverage with Greg Carey starting on Wednesday afternoon. Thanks for joining us this evening, and Travis will be back in next Sunday, and Kyle Wiggs back in the studio with Brad and Coach Hunter coming up tomorrow night for Sportsline. Thanks for joining us.
From the Health Plan Studios, the CityNet statewide Sportsline is an exclusive production of the MetroNews Radio Network. All rights reserved.